I'm Geoff Nemnich.
And I'm Rick Paulette.
And we're the hosts of The Last Stand. Coyote hunting is my passion.
And coyote calls are my livelihood.
And together we aim to bring you the best predator hunting tips, tricks, and tactics, right down to the last stand.
The Last Stand, presented by Lucky Duck Predator Calls. We are the masters of deception. Swagger bipods. Shoot with confidence, shoot with swagger. OnX Hunt. Know where you stand. Hornady. Accurate, deadly, dependable.
So after hunting in that area that you just watched on the last episode, we didn't have the luck we were wanting to. We were actually planning on hunting in there for several days, but the coyote numbers weren't there, so we decided to make a move. We're gonna use OnX maps. We're gonna hunt some areas we've hunted before, briefly, a few stands here and there, maybe expand on those stands, maybe find some new stands, but it's gonna be an exciting couple days. We're gonna look at some new country, visit some old stands, and hopefully get into some coyotes.
So day two, we go in and we had 2 or 3 different valleys that we wanted to try that were separated with a decent little drive in between. And that was our game plan for the day. And if we found a bunch of coyotes, we're gonna stick with them. The first valley, we ended up blanking 2 or 3 stands and decided to go on to the next.
Public land is tricky sometimes. You know, the main thing with public land is you don't know if anybody's been out there hunting. You know, you can howl it, you can look for tracks, you know the coyotes are there, but you really don't know what the pressure is. And when I'm dealing with pressure coyotes like that, the one thing I've found out over the years, if you can get down in the thick cover, you know, there's a better chance of those coyotes being more relaxed and wanting to come to the call.
I want some super tight stuff here. This is my cup of tea. So next to some feedlots, we'll see if it works.
Well, we utilized OnX maps. We found a big dairy lot. We kind of looked at the map, and we found some public sections kind of surrounding it. When you get around these dairy lots, there's a lot of alfalfa pivots and things like that. I'm sure the coyotes come out there at night, but during the day they come back into this thick brush just to lay up. And that's exactly what we've done. I've walked in here into the middle of this section, and it's tight. I didn't even bring a rifle. That's how tight it is. If we can see them, we can kill them with a shotgun. So I'm gonna start off some lucky pecker. We're not gonna sit here very long in these tight stands like this. We're probably gonna sit here maybe 6 minutes tops. Coming.
That's that black lab. There's no coyotes in here if that black lab just came from 3/4 of a mile.
So it's populated around here. It's not like desolate desert. We actually came in on the other side of this section. The wind switched on us, and there was this, I don't know if it's a wild dog or what, somebody's black lab. He came from what, at least a half mile, 3/4.
That thing came in perfect though.
He did.
If that was a coyote, that would have been great footage.
Yeah. Hey, so if you ever lose your black lab, just turn on a little cotton ball, brings them back to the house. Once again, we're just utilizing OnX maps. We found us a little pocket here of public brush, kind of surrounded by a bunch of alfalfa circles and winter wheat and stuff like that. So it should be a place where these coyotes are laid up right now. Shotgun country for sure. We can't see about 30, 40 yards. I do have a run right down here in case one pops out, but I'm guessing if they come, they're gonna be right on the call. Left of the call. You know, once again, the swirling winds, you know, affected us. We lost a couple coyotes because of that. When you're calling that thick cover and you only see those coyotes from 30 or 40 yards out, if you have a swirling wind, your scent's blowing out there. It doesn't take very long to get to a point where they're smelling it and they're gone.
As a shotgunner, I'm used to hunting super thick cover, but when you got the wind switching every direction, every time you sit down, you end up with a hard situation to manage because you can't see the coyotes. They're gonna go for wind, and you can't manage it and try to keep them in the thick cover in front of you, and they're gonna come in behind you every single time.
Got it? Good shot. You know, I get a lot of questions on what do you do in a swirling wind? And when I mean swirling wind, a lot of times in these areas, if you only get a 1 or 2 or 3 mile an hour wind, you may be walking into a stand and it's in your face. By the time you sit down, you feel it hit the back of your neck, and it's constantly doing that, blowing your scent all over the place. And it makes it extremely tough. There's really no way to combat that except find maybe a more open area to where you can get those coyotes killed before they do catch that little bit of swirling wind and the swirling scent that's out in front of you. We finally found us a stand here where we have some visibility. Cut him up on this big pond dam. Dustin's down off to the left in the shadows with a shotgun. We should be able to kill anything we call in on this one. Here, leaving right here.
Woo! So that second valley, when we made 5 stands in a row and we're calling coyotes in, it was also super frustrating. It was good to see coyotes, but it was also really frustrating with the winds acting the way they were. Just didn't work as good as we wanted to for film.
So after those 2 coyotes that morning, we decided to road trip it for about 30 minutes to a new area. You know, and that's what happens sometimes. You explore new areas. It didn't pan out. We made 8 or 9 stands that afternoon. Didn't see any coyotes. You know, expectations for the next day now are finding some spots, using OnX at the hotel, and hopefully getting on some coyotes first thing next morning. So when we're looking at OnX, you know, you can look out across this desert country in southern Arizona, and we're looking for cover. And in this area, there's lots of agriculture. So we know that, you know, just from my experiences up north, the coyotes like to run those edges. You know, I call them transition areas, kind of where the ag borders into this cover, the brush, the draws, the washes, things like that. And on OnX, we found a spot that looked pretty good, that gave us the access we needed with the wind direction, and that's what we hit first stand of the morning. Driving in there, we get to the edge of this little agriculture field, getting ready to make a stand, and we bump 3 coyotes out of there. And they run up onto this berm, and knowing where OnX was, it kind of dropped into this narrow strip of brush in between these 2 ag fields. So we let the coyotes actually go over the berm, we parked, made our move to set up on them.
Trying to figure out how to set up on this first stand of the morning. We got a bunch of coyotes. We've seen them right here. Just figuring out how we're going to play the wind, and we've only got a little narrow strip of cover. We got a big wide open area out in front. We got to figure out if we're going to put the call out in the wide open, try to get them out in the open, or if we're going to just cover this good cover behind us.
We'll set up right here. We'll put the call right here, and then we can see them coming. And then we can still shoot anything that runs down the bottom here, across where I walked. But Dustin and I kind of put a quick plan together and realized our best option is to just tuck in this berm, and hopefully we'll catch these coyotes coming over the berm and dropping down into this little ditch in front of us.
And we actually had to call them from out in the open into the cover with us, which is the opposite of how it usually works. But we kind of had to flip the switch on them and reverse roles and call them back into the cover when they were actually out in the open.
Well, we finally got our setup figured out here. We're bumping coyotes. They don't seem real spooked. We got down in this bowl here. We only got about 60 yards across. We could have coyotes come from both sides. The wind's kind of blowing back over this berm right here. So we're tucked down in here. We don't have very much visibility, but we're right in the middle of about 3 or 4 coyotes. So we'll see if we can get one of them to respond. gonna shoot him. Another one down on the bank. Here they come. Coming down the berm, Patterson. Coming to the call, Patterson, right. Nice. Just had one right behind us, I think. Rifle, shotgun, double in the opposite order usually. We're back. We're back.
And Patterson made a great, 25, 30 yard running shot on the coyote, and we're pumped. First stand of the day, double down, Arizona public land.
That was awesome.
That was so cool to watch him come up on that berm.
Yeah.
It's like skyline on the berm, like they look massive. Like
Was there just one?
there was one right here, but another one was coming down the berm that way.
And he spooked out.
And then when this one kind of gave us the little,
Yeah.
Like,
so
I was
did
like-
this one. Like instead of just looking at the decoy coming to it.
well, heck, he got to about right in that tree right there, didn't he? I'm not lying, I was hoping he'd just continue right down the berm,
Yeah, I bet you were. You're probably waiting for him to just keep popping up like a video game on the berm over there.
I had visions of that. After that first one did that, I'm like, oh man, that's all we're gonna do is just shoot them and they pop up on the berm.
Jeff's Arizona carnival ride where you carnival games. Clinking the coyotes. Ching, 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 ching.
I'd take it. Yeah, I mean, this spot we pretty much found last night on the map, sitting in the hotel on
Yeah.
Onyx Maps, just looking, zooming into the satellite image. You can see the terrain, you can kind of see how things lay. Some ag mixed in here. But like I said, the great thing about Arizona, tons of public access, and it gets you in where you want to go. So
So it was about a perfect stand. Can't ask for much more that first stand in the morning.
So the rest of the morning, we're working around in the same area. We heard multiple coyotes howling around. We knew there was coyotes in there. We ended up bumping several coyotes walking in the stand. We just were getting unlucky, I felt, but didn't have any luck. So we packed up, made a run about 15 miles to a newer area for the afternoon.
So later on in day 3, we ended up finding a 2-track that just went way out in the middle of nowhere. It was the same cover that we were hunting that morning. It was grease woods and it looked good. Didn't change elevation much, so we figured there might be coyotes throughout it. And we ended up going all the way back into this 2-track and turning around and working the wind all the way back through it.
Now, as we're making these stands, in the back of my mind, we have 2 stands that we made last year. And it's the only stands we've ever made in this area, and we actually killed back-to-back coyotes on back-to-back stands to end the day. And we're saving these 2 stands for the very end of the day. So we're just trying to fill in and try to find some new areas to fill in that gap before it's time to go over there and make those last stands of the day.
And we ended up with a 3 or 4 hour period there where we didn't see any coyotes. And then we started picking Onyx apart and finding some sections of public that were more geared towards what we'd found them in before, which was next to fields. And
It got warm. You're not anticipating coyotes really gonna come from very far. You gotta get set right up on them. But we're just moving, covering lots of ground, making stands. We've only been making about 8-minute stands throughout this middle part of the day. But Dustin found us another promising looking spot here on the Onyx. I'm gonna start off, it's about a whole section here of desert looking country kind of surrounded by agriculture. So hoping there's a coyote laid up in here.
Now, a lot of times when I'm switching sounds, I'll volume the sound down a little bit, switch the sound, and volume it back up to where I was going. And on this particular stand, nobody saw this coyote coming. He was making his way onto the pup distress, and I literally looked out there, did not see a coyote, looked down, volume down, switched the call, looked up, and there's the coyote. Right here, come straight out, right here. On him. Ooh. Well, if you want to rifle shoot them instead of shotgun shoot them, all you got to do is switch the sound about when they're about 90 yards out there. I was just switching the sound back, and I saw the coyote. He was on a good run coming to the rabbit, or pup, or one of them, I don't even remember, but pup, and I switched to the other one right when I saw him. Not on purpose, but that was enough to check him up. And a lot of times, if they're right there close when you switch that sound, it's gonna be enough to check them up a little bit. Ultimately, that coyote was an easy shot with the rifle. We were hoping to get the coyote within shotgun range, but once I switched up that call, the gig was up. The coyote kind of knew something was up. I gave him a minute to kind of see what he did, but just watching this coyote's body language, you could tell he was turned, getting ready to go. Was able to get that coyote stopped out there at 80 yards. That's why you shoot those 53s. Broadside, right in the shoulder. Hornady 53 grain VMAX out of the 223. I like to call it 53 grains of dynamite. As you can tell from about 70 yards, no exit, no nothing. We make a few more stands. It all looks good, but no coyotes, but the sun's getting close to the horizon. It's time to go to the 2 stands that we made last year that produced coyotes. While we're chasing the sun here, it's gonna be our second to last stand. It took us all day, but we finally made it into the spot where we hunted last year. You might have remembered it from one of the episodes down here. We made it here the last couple stands of the day. We saved them for the same 2 stands of the day this year. Just hoping for the same result. Got the wind blowing in our face about 5 miles an hour. Just calling down into a big wash full of thick vegetation. As we're in that second to the last setup of the day, I'm rolling through different sounds, and throughout the trip, it just seemed like coyotes were responding better to the coyote-based sounds. You know, in years past, a lot of times you just play a rabbit sound and the coyotes come running in, but for whatever reason, this year, it's just not happening the way it's happened in the past, so you gotta be flexible. You gotta be willing to try new sounds and maybe go more towards those coyote-based sounds. And it was late in the stand. I had rolled through 2 different pup distresses, a little bit of rabbit. There, Dustin. Get on it. Christmas. Been here about 10 minutes. We're just getting ready to go. I was just glassing, maybe see if he catch some movement. It just, out of nowhere, the coyote come right through that little gap right there in those trees, was standing right here. He had us pegged. He kind of made his way across. At that point, you got to make a decision. Try to get him stopped or shoot him running. He was just about to get into that brush. Sometimes you just got to anchor him. It wasn't a great shot on that first shot, but once they start spinning, you take your time, put a second one in them, and the stand stays 100%.
See.
See. We're gonna hustle up. As you can see from the skyline, the sun's setting. We're gonna get this coyote picked up. We're gonna run down the way here about a mile, and we got another 100% stand that we made last year that finish off the day.
So at the end of day 3 there, after struggling for a little while, and we killed that one on the second to last stand, going to the hotel that night and trying to get a game plan together for the next day, we knew we needed to just try something completely different than what we had been doing. I keep referring to it, but the game situation wasn't the same. There wasn't rabbits everywhere, there wasn't deer everywhere, there wasn't trails, there wasn't scat. All that stuff was missing this year, and along with that, the coyote numbers seemed to be really down, so we needed to get another game plan together for the next day, and we ended up, for our 4th day, going to some different stuff that we've hunted and actually the ground that we won worlds on.
You know, going into our last day in Arizona, we make about a 4-hour run up to the northern part of Arizona, and the terrain's different. It's more rolling, yellow grass hills full of junipers. Some years it's really, really good. Some years it's not. It's all public land, but some years, for whatever reason, there's lots of coyotes in there, but they just don't want to come to the call. So based off of the previous couple days, it seems like the coyotes are responding more to the coyote sounds. Like that's what the coyotes are wanting to come to. So I like to do some female lone howls to start the standoff.
We got coyotes howling all over the place. We got domestic dogs howling with them. You know, these coyotes are pretty close, right back over our left shoulder here.
They're out in front too, though.
Yeah, we're good. There's one coming right here behind us. He's coming in right. Dustin, he's gonna be off your right shoulder. Right shoulder. Come around. Coming off your right shoulder. Get ready. Another one out front. We out here running. Another one out front. See him out there? He's running hard.
Switch up pups.
That was the one howling. He was coming over there.
So although it wasn't a picture-perfect scene of the coyotes running right out, which normally when we've made this stand in the past, the coyotes come from straight out, and Dustin usually shotguns them on this stand. Although that didn't happen, we called in a coyote, we killed a coyote. Hey, it's gonna be a great day.
Please, Lord, let there be a triple come rolling in on this one. Well, we're into our 4th stand of the morning. We're just working these big valleys. Coyotes, I think, like to be down in this more flat country than they do that rougher stuff. It's usually where we catch them. I'm gonna stick with our coyote sequence. Lone howls into some pup distresses. Give that another couple stands to see how it plays out, and then maybe I'll switch it up if we don't have any more luck. Big open stands. I'm gonna open up the volume here. I'm gonna play these lone howls at maybe 22, 24. Then once I get into the pup distress, I'll probably fluctuate it from 16 to 24. I like to spin the call over here and then kind of raise it a little bit, lower it. Spin the call back over here, raise it, lower it back down a little bit. I usually don't leave it maxed out the entire time. Maybe just run it up for a few seconds, then run it back down.
You know, once you get coyotes that howl, you know, not more than a half a mile away, you have a couple decisions to make. You know, you can go right into the rabbit, or you can go right into the pup distress or coyote fights. And on this particular stand, I elected to go right into the coyote fights. It sounded like a couple older pair of coyotes.
Get a fight going.
I squeezed off the round, hit the coyote a little low, but luckily we were able to put a couple more bullets into the coyote, and we had our second coyote of the day, which is better than most years. Just don't know what to, I don't know why he didn't, I don't know if he was just a young one, all the coyote stuff kind of had him spooked a little bit or what.
I figured they'd go for wind around the right side.
I was just expecting them to come. But I couldn't, it sounded to me like they're right. I don't think they're up top. I think they're right there in that.
Yeah, they were
bottom.
just over it in the valley.
Yeah. Well, this one came from a long ways, wherever it came from, but.
That's them. They came down from here. I never saw them up here, but they stopped right here, and then they both were going that way.
Oh, there was two. Oh,
yeah. You didn't see the second one?
No, I never did. I saw the one standing here chest on at the bank.
They were both running down when you shot.
Yeah. Well, the one stopped, but.
Yeah, but they were both running down the same.
Huh. Interesting. You know, this whole trip was planned around using the onX app. You know, we probably made close to 80 stands in the 4 days we were down in this country. We're not special. I mean, you know, it's something you can pick up your phone and load up the onX maps and do the same thing. You know, plan a trip out west. It's not to say that the coyote hunt is going to be great, but I'll tell you what, it's exciting making coyote stands in new country. You'll never be disappointed doing that. You know, ultimately, I was a little disappointed in the trip just because the coyote hunting hadn't lived up to the expectations of the previous year. But all in all, it's always a fun trip. You know, Dustin lives in eastern Kansas. This is really the main chance I get to hunt with him a year. So it's always fun. We saw some crazy things. You know, we saw an unbelievable amount of quail, saw an unbelievable amount of javelina. We called in some dogs on a couple stands that probably came into the call better than most coyotes that we called in all week. You know, probably one of the most unique things, walking into one stand, we actually came across a stash where smugglers had stashed their backpacks and their carpet shoes. So that was a little piece of entertainment for the day, you know, taking the carpet shoes back as souvenirs. Dustin actually found a lucky hat that one of the smugglers had, a camouflage hat, so he wore that, trying to spur on our luck for the day. You know, those are the things that are really cool. You know, seeing new country, finding new stands, you just never know. You know, down in this country, it might not be great, but you know, as we've seen in the past, you know, you may hit it right and you may have an unbelievable day. But it didn't happen this year, but we'll definitely be back to Arizona.